Hey, Diane here. Have you ever had a moment of emotional freedom that you wanted to share because it was something you thought it was worth sharing? Well, that's what Download with Diane is. And I just wanted to give a little bit of clarity to what I'm doing because I've been sharing some posts on different social media platforms and I know some of my followers were like, "Hey, I thought she was a mortgage chick and now she's doing this stuff and there might be some disconnect." And I just really wanted to provide some clarity and if anything for me, because that's kind of what Download with Diane is I get these feelings and this inspiration that I really do feel that are coming from the Holy Spirit. And I've been doing Download with Diane podcasts for going on 2 years now. I'm so excited. I've had 70 some podcasts that I've recorded, and they have been wonderful. If anything, just for me to like hear things back and just get such deeper understanding with God. And I think that this whole journey started when I started writing my books. And for those of you that may not know, I am an author, independent author, independently published author, I guess you could say, of 4 books. One is called My Friendship with Doubt, and it is about experiencing doubt and going through the emotional process of that. The other one is Rulers Don't Measure, and that is just how we compare ourselves to people. And then the other one is The Power of Judge Not, which I feel like I am still learning from the enormous power of that book that really just talks about not judging the promises of God. So I'm so excited and impressed with these books, and I called them like children's books, but as I'm thinking about it more and more, they are really books for our children's soul, like the soul in our grown up hearts. That, there's so many of us can relate with having doubt and comparison and not understanding the promises of God. So that's one thing that I'm really delving into. And now that I'm focusing 100% on the Download with Diane brand, I'm going to be talking about the books more and just hoping that we can get those out and understood even more by people. I'm really hoping that I can sell the books, and that's going to be part of how I can fund my life. And the other thing, I also wrote the 4th book is called I Felt Our Hearts Talk, the Anna Marie story. And this is kind of seems like it comes from nowhere, but God has me on this journey of understanding me, going deep in my heart, and then taking that and sharing it with others. And so the my I Felt Our Hearts Talk is a book about my miscarriage experience. And it is a beautiful story. It's a love story between a mom and an unborn child. And we wrote to each other in the book. And this really happened. It was a journal that I had before I lost the baby at 25 weeks. And I wrote to her and she wrote back. And so I would love to share that book more with ladies that are going through this experience. A miscarriage is truly, I don't care if it's a 4-week miscarriage, 6-week miscarriage, 35. It's any type of loss of a child is just incredibly painful. And the book is very encouraging. And it really was getting me even more on the trajectory of my relationship with God. And my husband has a section in there. My midwife has a section. Another woman that was really important in my life during that time, she's in there. And so this book was written about 23 years after little Anna Marie had passed. And I have 2 beautiful sons now in their early 20s. And so I've been blessed with children after that was my first child. And so I just feel like God is me sharing things, and I am the person that talks about things that people don't like to talk about. And so my podcast topics are about judgment and about fear and about comparison and about just really starting to understand and process the fact that I feel like we are on a merry-go-round sometimes, and life is just doesn't make sense. And so I share these downloads and I'm processing them with you, with myself, and hopefully with you. And I'm hoping that it's bringing you um, closer to thinking these things through on your own. And I bring in scripture a lot because the Bible has been incredibly helpful for me and just giving me peace, understanding God's love even more. And I have a podcast about my breast cancer experience that I just had last year. And I have a podcast where I'm sort of processing if I'm going to stay in my banker job or if I'm going to leave. And, these are all things that I'm thinking that other people can relate to. And so I'm really hoping to increase my viewership, increase my listeners. Download with Diane is on Spotify and it's on Rumble, and I'm working to get it on even more of the other podcasts too for people. I'm dealing with all the technology of this and how to do really cool social media posts. So I'm learning all of this stuff. And it's just been really frustrating with the technology, but doing this content and talking about these things is truly oh is truly from my heart. And I've had so many in my mortgage career. I've had so many amazing conversations with people about this kind of stuff, about relationships, about kids, about just our feelings and just like, what's this all for? And talking about God and strengthening ourselves and getting rid of some of the crazy kooky thoughts that we think that just keep us stuck in our lives. And so I have had so much freedom in the last year of processing these things, and I just want to share them with other people. So instead of doing my best to promote and to sell for the bank, it's really time for me to promote what God is putting in my heart and to share that. And one of the other things that I'm working on is I've done a couple podcasts called Frankly Speaking, and that is where I talk about how important it is to talk to our kids about sex. And what's interesting to me is that those podcasts have got the most attention, the most listeners, and I'm feeling like we're on to something here. So I'm working on some programs for that to encourage parents to talk to their kids about sex early and often. And the main reason it really comes down to our relationship with God and knowing who we are and making sure our kids know who they are and they are loved. And really the premise of all of my books is that there is a divine creator, that there is a God that deeply, deeply loves us and is our manufacturer and just wants us to experience his love and relationship. And then the premise of a lot of the things that I talk about is that we have very special gifts and talents and that we are to celebrate them and to recognize them and not try to stuff them down and say like, well, it's not as good as that person or whatever. No, That time is over. Stand in your own power and just love on yourself and recognize what gifts and talents that you have. And then the other premise that I talk about a lot and is in my books and everything is just that God is here for us to protect us, to guide us, and to direct us. And I've just really been leaning into that, into leaning into all of those beliefs right now. And I want to encourage other people to do the same thing. And a message that I got several years ago, right when I was in the middle of probably finishing my first book and getting started on my second one, is I'm driving down the road and I'm like, God, what am I doing? Like, what is happening here? I mean, what, like, what am I doing? Because it just didn't make sense. I thought it was just, a mortgage check and a mom and a wife and a friend. And now he's like, no, you're doing this. This is your calling. This is what I want for you. You've been doing this stuff behind the scenes anyway. So let's just really kind of put it out there. And so the biggest thing that he said to me, and I saw this message in my head, was it said condemnation was like written with a big circle around it. And then it was a slash and it was no condemnation. And that was so powerful for me. If anything, for me to learn that myself. I talk a lot about my childhood, and I think that I do it mainly just so I can understand myself, not because I'm going back there and not to condemn other people or to feel sorry for myself, but just I like to understand how things work and like where did that come from and what is happening and what did that create, and then I can blow holes in these beliefs and thought processes that I had in the past and what I learned. Like our first 7 years are so incredibly influential that it's literally in our DNA. And so recognizing that I grew up with condemnation, and it's not just my parents, they had it too. They passed it on. But then when I go back, it was in their childhood and in their parents' childhood. So it's just a generation. And I think that in some ways there's a world of condemnation. And if we can put the slash through it and just like no smoking, we can be like no condemnation. And I'm not talking about, when someone needs to be reprimanded because they did something they shouldn't have done. We're not talking about that. We're talking about that condemning feeling that you have in the middle of the night that you think you really stink. That's what we need to get rid of. Like, we need to just get rid of that. And so I feel like that's what God is calling me to do. And so the no condemnation is some light and some opening and some freshness is provided through my books. And the same thing through my podcasts. I always work on making them encouraging. And sometimes I have guests on that are just such light, wonderful teachers and educators, and just, because of their life experiences. And I'm going to continue to do that. And then the same thing with, frankly speaking, with your kids about sex. I'm going to keep going with that too, because I just am seeing that condemnation is so tied to sexuality. And our kids, just like us parents, we need to know how special and loved that we are, and that we need to appreciate and love our entire humanness. So I'm hoping that these are things that are going to be valuable for my listeners. And I'm really hoping to kind of get a community going and, have some talks and do some workshops and have some educational things. I'm really not sure of all how this is going to flow. But I just wanted to put something out there so that if people are like, what is Download with Diane and why is she saying this stuff and what's the point? And it's just messages from my heart that God is putting in there. And I'm just being prompted with these downloads. Go ahead and share them. Let people know. The right people that needs to hear this stuff will find you. And I'm encouraging any of you that are on this kind of journey, because I feel like we're all sort of seeking, and there's a lot of us that have like these spiritual pangs, but we're afraid to move forward because of money, because what will people think, because of um, how is it going to work? And I mean, I've been there, had all of that stuff, but I'm just becoming more empowered to just trust God is just going to help with us, that He loves me. He's given me special gifts and talents, and He is going to strengthen me and give me protection and show me the path that I should walk on. Because if you think about it, it's just, it's just breadcrumbs. All of it is breadcrumbs. And because none of us know exactly what's going to happen. I mean, when I was working for corporations, they could have closed up at any moment. There's no safety, there's no security, only in God. And so I'm leaning into that. And again, this is the kind of stuff that I talk about on my podcast, Download with Diane. So I just hope that you will connect with me, follow me on your favorite social media platform, listen in, and like my podcast or subscribe to it. And I'd really like to get my listeners up. And at some point, it would be awesome to have someone that would want to sponsor. That would really help with getting this just to grow. And if you know anyone that feels aligned with what this message is, please have them reach out to me. If you or you know anyone that would like to be a guest on Download with Diane, then message me, ping me. I am open to seeing how things flow. And I just want to be a light of encouragement and hopefully some inspiration, and just share when I feel a spiritual ping or just a spiritual download that means something to me. I'm feeling compelled to share it. So thank you for listening, and I wish you many, many blessings. Thank you.